evening, everyone. This is Mac here, and I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, which is called Mac Vlogs. Wow, check that out. Who is my guest for this evening? None other than Mr. Dave Crane, an international speaker, the public speaker, the branding coach, and he is going to change our lives today with his pep talk with me in the discussion we have today. So let's wait and see where he is. Let us welcome him on Mac Vlogs today to talk and change our lives. Here he is. Good evening, Dave. Good to
Good to
see
see
you.
you. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you doing? It looks great. Thank you so much. First of all, it's with my humble thank. Just want to say a big thank you to be part of MacFlux today and add value by sharing your life experiences because I'm sure you have a huge fan following all around the world. So today, my audience and people should understand how they can get benefit from you by connecting with you and understand the topic which we chose, how to monetize and become a celebrity, I would say, right? So
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you.
before we proceed, we would just like to have a small introduction from your end, basically because we saw that video. It was amazing, cool, amazing. But we want to hear from you. Who is Dave Crane and what is he doing in Dubai and how is he changing people's lives through these online platforms? Go ahead.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Here's the thing. Whenever people say to me, tell us about what you are and what you do and all the rest of it, I could spend the next 10 years talking about things I've done, but the problem is nobody really needs to care. It's not about who I am and what I've done and who I've worked with and all the things I've been through. It's only about what I can do for you. It's anybody who's watching the show is watching it because they have good fun watching it, but also because they're getting something out of it. And so my focus is always asking that question, what can I do for other people? And so with our session today, if anybody wants to know who I am and what I do, it's easy. Just Google Dave Crane and you'll get reams of stuff. In a short version, I'm a speaker. I train speakers. I travel around the world hosting huge events. And I've been around for a very long time, which is why I've got so much gray that's earned in my beard. I have a gorgeous wife, gorgeous daughter, 2 incredible dogs. I'm based in Dubai, and every day is a brand new adventure.
Wow. So in a short, I think you gave a great intro about yourself in a very short span. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's begin this discussion of ours, the session of ours, the interview. I wouldn't say interview, more of a discussion style, I would say. How can we monetize our platforms and how can we become a celebrity, which people want to understand? Because every day they're trying something new. There are different platforms, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Everything is becoming monetized these days, basically, because they want to earn from making their platforms monetized. What do you have to say on that? And what is the way forward? How anyone can monetize their platforms to become a celebrity?
Right. There's a number of different things that you've asked there, and so I'm going to break them down bit by bit. The answer I actually gave at the very beginning of when we first started the show. The question you've got to ask is what's in it for them? And don't think about that about you. Think about it for your people who are going to pay you money. So if you're a celebrity, first of all, I think celebrity is a horrible term because I think it has to be earned rather than just you turn up and your parents are famous or something happened and so on. If you're a one-hit wonder, for instance, and you have no back catalogue of achievements, then you can do very well with that one thing, but that's it disappears. So for instance, one of the worst things I could ever consider being is imagine if you're very young, I'm a lot older. Imagine having one hit record that was massive, like a Macarena or a Gangnam Style, and nobody cares about your other material. And so you can always get gigs around the world for the next 10, 20 years, as long as you don't mind playing that song. Nobody wants to hear any of the other stuff because they don't care. They just want that song because it was such a big hit. So celebrity has a lot of different natures to it. I think the key to celebrity nowadays is not because you're famous or recognizable. I think that's important as well. But I think it's ultimately what it is that you represent. So we've had a number of years where being an influencer is all about, having good looks, dressing well, being funny, quirky, sometimes completely irreverent or a rebel. So people go, wow, that's a great distraction. But those numbers that they get, in many cases, vanity metrics, although they can be very impressive, I mean, 8 million people in some cases is brilliant. But at the same time, if you can't monetize it, then what do you do with it? So being recognized is great, but it also means that it's a lack of privacy. But at the same time, if you can't turn that 8 million views into some modicum of cash, then why are you really doing it? I think the way to move forward, and in many ways, the lockdown has driven this faster. During the lockdown, those so-called influencers found themselves without work. Because you can't turn up at an event and say, hi guys, here I am. There is no event. And you won't be paid for by sponsors to talk about their brand because they're not doing anything. And neither are you. So I've always thought that the way to move forward is to become an industry icon, to position yourself as the best in your industry so people know that you've got a level of expertise, they recognize who you are, and they understand instantly what you can do for them and how they interact with you. So therefore, what they do is they want to pay money for you to do what you do for them exclusively, whether it's personally or your company or so on. So I think celebrity has a different nature to it than it used to have before. I was reading an article yesterday all about the fact that Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones died recently. He was a drummer from one of the most famous rock bands of all time. And we're in the next year, or next decade, to be honest with you, most of the icons from the 70s and 80s, Elton John, Bruce Springsteen, everybody who's a huge rock star in the 70s and 80s is now hitting 70 and 80 years old. And by nature of just being alive, they won't be. And so what is the optimum time for being a celebrity? Because one of the things is when you choose these artists, and you look at everybody from Elton John to Bob Dylan to David Bowie, or any of these bands like The Who or whoever it was, Led Zeppelin, they were brilliant when they were in the 20s. When they were 30 years old, they kind of maybe hit a big target. Even the Beatles, when the Beatles broke up, Paul McCartney was about 28 years old. So he peaked in his 20s. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't do great stuff afterwards with his other bands and his solo work, but it's not the Beatles. So what is it that makes a celebrity so good? Is it the fact that they're really hungry and they're rebelling against the system? And so when they become celebrities, they're rich and they've got people following them and fans who love them and want to hug them and buy their stuff. They're not hungry. They're not trying to rebel against the system anymore. So are they just hanging on by being celebrities in the fact that they're recognized but not producing something? So if you're going to monetize it, I think you really have to work out what the nature is of the celebrity that you want, and then work out who your customers or potential followers are, and then see if what you offer is something that they want to buy. People might think you're fantastic value, but they don't want anything from you. Take, for instance, during the lockdown, how many celebrities, actors, artists were earning money? Virtually none. They couldn't go on tour. They were doing Facebook Lives and they were doing, I don't know, stuff on YouTube and so on. But people can get it for free. Why should they pay? So it has to be part of an ensemble. So I think the nature of celebrity has a number of different levels for people to look at.
I mean, I totally agree with you what you said just now. So I think I'm sure everybody might have got the answers for what they're looking for. Well, coming back to another question I would be that how do people approach you to change their mindsets or to become a speaker? Like what type of training do you give them, whether it's online, virtual, or or they come and visit you? So what are the process they have to go through to become a genuine, confident speaker?
Okay, well, I have really narrowed down what I do into two things. I get you to be an effective communicator, and I position you as the best in your industry. Now, to get that right, you've got to get your mindset right, because if you don't think of yourself as being good enough, then of course there's no point amplifying your insecurities, because people will just say, well, why should I bother? Now, speaking is probably the least performed effectively martial art that we have, but it's also the most important martial arts, because if you think about it, I do a lot of gigs now that are, say, for instance, something like GITEX. So I'm on stage at GITEX, which is a huge techie event, one of the biggest techie events in the world. I'm talking on a stage and I've got about 7 different audiences to deal with. Let me illustrate. First of all, I've got the one in my head. Me thinking, what am I going to do next? Are you in the right place? Are you going the right direction? What's the timing? How long have we got left? Who are you going to talk to next? Then I've got the panel on stage. Now, the panel on stage are the people I've got to interview and bring out the best of them. Then I've got people on Zoom who I've got to interview at the same time. Then I've got the audience in front of me that I've got to keep happy. If they're not laughing or cheering or clapping or staring, then we have to make sure that they're energized, because the people at home getting a streaming feed are picking up on what the audience is feeling. If the audience claps, they feel like they're clapping. If the audience just stares, they feel like it's a dead atmosphere, or there's something interesting going on and they should pay attention. Then you've got the facilitators, the organizers of the event, who are constantly keeping an eye to make sure the whole thing runs. Then you've got the sponsors, the people that are paying money for the whole thing to come together. So when you're speaking, you've got all these different people to interact with before you even look at what it is that you're communicating. So you have to be very good at the communication, know your stuff, and also be able to start speaking, knowing that you trust what's going to come out next. So in many ways, staying in your industry or in your niche is very important, rather than talking about things that you don't know. So with that, that's the main thing I do. And the people who get their head around that, and they can do that by going to speakonstage.com. I have a system set up already for them to learn all this with videos and so on. But then I work with people as industry icons. That's the people who may or may not be speakers, but they're certainly very good at what they do. And the nature of most people who are very good at what they do is they don't know how to brand themselves or carry themselves. So if you look at the biggest celebrities we have right now, let's take Mark Zuckerberg, for instance. Facebook are arguably the biggest brand on the planet. However, are Facebook loved by everybody? No, they're a bit like Darth Vader. Some people love him, some people hate him, some people see him as a necessary evil. Now that could change instantly if Mark Zuckerberg was able to be more affable. Now he does stuff for charity, he does a lot of things that are very important to the world, but where he carries himself when he's being interviewed makes it look like, I don't know if I like this guy, even if he's likable. He kind of comes across like he could be the next James Bond villain, even if he's a nice guy, because his speaking isn't very strong. And he calculates things because he's a very good, a lot of the people who are super high level at creation and invention often have a trade-off with a level of autism. So they're brilliant at gadgets, bad at people. So for instance, if you take something like Richard Branson, he's 100% people person. So when you see him being interviewed, all you want to do is say, I want him to be my uncle. He's great fun, he's lovely, everything he says resonates with you. Take someone like Elon Musk, for instance, who is like Tony Stark, Iron Man on Earth. And sometimes you think he's great, sometimes you think he's a bit weird, but you can't argue with the success or the things he's creating. Or you got Jeff Bezos, for instance. So Jeff Bezos, a very smart guy, clearly a strong businessman, but the things that Amazon do are incredible, and the money they make is incredible, but sometimes the human rights side of how they produce that has a bad press. Now that could be changed if you had the figureheads being more effective at their relationship with the camera and their relationship with their own PR. And so that's what I do. I train people to see that gap in their industry where they may not be the biggest hitter in their industry, but they're good. But I get them so they're able to be received by people looking into the industry as being brilliant at what they do. And because they get elevated to speaking opportunities, to branding opportunities, to growing a following, their competitors and peers see the growth that they have and start to elevate them onto a pedestal, saying they're the one to watch. Because unless you've actually been in that celebrity world and played on radio, TV, magazines, newspapers, live stages, and so on, it's all guesswork. For me, it's not guesswork. I've been doing this for 50 years, so I pretty much know what I'm talking about.
Okay. I'm going to throw a few words towards you, okay? Because since you're an international speaker, and to anyone to become a speaker, right, there are certain key words. I want you to elaborate that so the people can understand when they're live, when they're on stage, how much those words have an impact on the audience because of a personality, okay?
Yep.
Confidence. Please explain what is confidence for a speaker.
Right. Confidence for a speaker means that you are able to feel internally that everything you say is the same as externally what you are projecting. So ultimately, communication is not about what you're saying, it's about what they receive. And so with confidence, what you want to do is not put on an actor's act. What you want to be is as transparent as possible. So what you're thinking, you can say straight away, and the people who are receiving it can feel that there's no gap. We talked earlier about Mark Zuckerberg, who has to consider what he says to make sure the right thing comes across for legal reasons as much as everything else. But that split second, that gap where he's thinking about it before he delivers it, gives a little bit of suspicion for people going, does he mean it or is he making something up? So that confidence that you have is very important, but confidence also has a knock-on effect. So for instance, if you're not comfortable being on a stage in front of strangers, then that confidence is going to translate, because with every audience you speak in front of, you train them or they train you. And so if you don't train them properly and get them so they're going, wow, this person knows what we're talking about, I can learn stuff, this person is completely what I expected from when I Googled them, then what they do is they go, right, justify yourself, I'm a bit bored. Now, if it's a live audience, they have to stay there, because otherwise they have to get up and walk out. Doesn't mean they can't look at their phone, doesn't mean they can't talk to their friends. But an online audience, they can just click, or they can watch Facebook at the same time, or they can check their emails, or even so, they might look like they're there, but they've opened up a separate window and they're doing something completely different, or shutting down their camera. So confidence has a number of different things, but ultimately, the only thing that matters is how it matters to them, but you've got to start with you first. So for instance, on a plane, on the days when we were on planes, you used to have the air hostess saying, if the oxygen mask comes down, look after yourself first before you look after anybody else. So don't put the oxygen mask on your children, because if the cabin fills with gas or smoke, you'll pass out and your children can't carry you off a plane, so you'll all perish. Whereas if your children pass out and you've got this on, you can carry them to safety, and when they're outside, they're going to be okay. So with confidence, it's the same thing. You have to work out who you are, what you are, and how you feel about what you're going to share before you impose that or share that with anybody. Otherwise, they will see a rat. And if they do see that the two aren't comparable or not quite right, then in the back of their head, they'll go, there's something not right here, and they won't buy. They won't trust you, and they won't buy.
How about face expressions and the attitude towards the audience?
Well, your ability to have good body language and posture are really key, because if you don't do it the right way, then people smell a rat again. So it's got to be your confidence mixes as part of your offering. So for instance, if you watch the news and the news anchor's constantly laughing at the news, it makes you think, I don't trust this news anchor, or maybe this news isn't true, or I don't like this channel, you should do it in a different way. If you're watching a late night talk show host and they're cracking jokes and everything about the news, then you get more of a confidence with that person, because you say, oh, thank goodness somebody said that. The news is far too serious, where it's quite clear it should be taken with a pinch of salt. So I think that the body language really matters as to what the vehicle is that you're in and who it has to reach. Is your audience going to buy into you with your message? Are they there to learn something? Are they there to have fun? Are they there for a combination of everything? And ultimately, if you have to sell to them, you or the event or your products or your services or a follow-up, what's the best way to get them to say yes? And ultimately, that comes down to trust. And the only way they're going to trust you is if they believe you. And jokes are very hard to get across if you want people to buy in and believe you.
Usually, I have come across in my life that when any speaker, he's so confident on the stage or on live stuff, but people don't know that sometimes a lot of people go through anxiety. So how do you overcome the anxiety becoming a public speaker? Because you don't have the practice, or maybe your lack of confidence at times allow the anxiety in you to face the world who want to listen to you or understand what you're trying to say. So how do you explain anxiety in a speaker and how he can overcome that?
Okay, well, first of all, you've got to understand the nature of what anxiety and fear of public speaking is. It's built into us. So I'll go through this very quickly because I know we have limited time to talk about it. If you think about our DNA and who we were, going back to the cavemen days, imagine you're in a cave and a bear comes into the cave. You've got a couple of different options that are subconscious. You don't think about them, you just have to do them. So your blood starts pumping, your adrenaline starts going, you lose all features like, am I hungry? Do I want to watch Netflix? Do I want to play? You're just thinking about the focus on this bear's in the cave. And the blood pumps your heart blood pumps all the blood into your hands, into your legs, and before you know it, you're fighting the bear. You don't think about it, you're fighting the bear. That's called fight. Or the same thing happens, all the non-essential features disappear, and the blood's pumped into your legs, and before you know it, you're running past the bear out of the cave. That's called flight. Or maybe the third option, the bear comes into the cave, it hasn't seen you yet, and so you freeze, hoping it won't see you, but all your senses are super sharp. You know where it is behind you. You can hear it, you can smell it, you can almost taste its fur, and it's behind me, but as it stopped. It's coming over again. No, it's moving somewhere else. That freeze is what most people have when they're facing a live audience. That's what the anxiety is. It goes back to our DNA for our safety. The fourth option is face. Facing up to the problem, facing up to the challenge. And in that case, in the cave, it would be having a spear, having a bell to ring, having a torch you could use, or having a way of getting the neighboring caves to empty their people in to fight your bear, or having a trapdoor you could disappear in so the bear couldn't see you. What we have in speaking terms is you have lots of things to fall back on. Do you know your material? Can you work well with your audience? Have you got a great introduction that allows the audience to know you before you arrive on stage? Can you train them straight away to be into what you say? Can you take breaks? Can you do audience-pleasing stuff that gets them to be having a great amount of energy and engagement before you actually go to your material? If something goes wrong, can you pivot and share something else? Are you interactive, or are you just talking at them? And there are a number of different ways of just getting your own anxiety levels so they're much better. One great way is doing some breathing exercises. You know, if you study any kind of breathing, then you can do a number of slow-paced breathing exercises that fills your head full of oxygen and allows you to feel slightly high, and it sets a reset on the way that you feel. Another way of doing it is a thing I called spinning. So if you spin a certain way, you feel really anxious and worse. Spin another way and you feel much better. Like if you're going to the gym. So if you go to the gym and it makes you feel happy going that way, then you spin this way. If going this way makes you feel like you're on stage and everyone's staring at you, don't do it. Do it the other way. So there's a number of different things and techniques you can use, as well as hypnosis and NLP, or playing your favorite song before you go on stage, that will get rid of a lot of the anxiety. But the audience doesn't know what you're going to say. So if you miss out on saying something and you go back and look at the video and go, oh, I didn't even say that, the audience probably doesn't know. So they don't care. They're all thinking, what's in it for me? So take that pressure off, and it's much easier. I show people how to get an audience trained and ready in 7 seconds. I teach them how to get an audience to clap for them when they've finished. So if you know that the audience is going to be trained in 7 seconds, you know that the audience is going to clap for you when you've finished. You just got to make sure that that gap in between is filled with content that they want, and you engage them all the way through. And that makes a very effective presentation.
How do your audience and followers engage with you for the workshops to take training from you? Is there any pattern, or is there any set plan you set out to the world that you're ready for workshops and stuff?
Yeah, well, I don't work with everybody. They have to be a certain type of person, and I have criteria that they have to pass to be able to get to work with me. Obviously, the investment level has to be the right amount, because I value my time and I value their time as well, but also what they get out of it, because people are at different levels. There's a whole range of different things that people can do that make them better at what they do or worse at what they do. And I have a number of different ways of qualifying. There's about 20 things that if they do it right, they can become a really high level celebrity. But at the same time, if you don't even think of yourself as a celebrity, or you haven't got any personal brand built up, or you don't really know what to speak about, or you haven't got the finances to be able to invest in yourself, or even the time to put into building up something, or the inclination, I don't really want to be that level, I'd just rather do what I'm doing right now but be happier. These are all criteria that would stop me working with somebody, certainly at that level. But the people that I enjoy working with, for instance, I'm working with a guy right now who's an investor, an angel investor in other people's businesses. He's being groomed to be on a TV show that's like Shark's Tank, or Dragon's Den as one of those investors who gets to hear people pitching. I'm working with another lady who's a negotiations expert. So she works with big businesses, teaching them how to close sales and make deals and do it in an ethical way. Another lady, a huge influencer on LinkedIn. You know, she's on the way to having 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and we're creating her own TV show. Another guy who's built some of the most iconic structures in Dubai. He's just a master builder, master construction expert. With all that expertise, he wants to now create an academy where people can come along and learn how to do better stuff in the industry. And we're working towards the content, the sales courses, the construction manuals, and the TV show that allows him to do that. In fact, he's working on going around the 7 wonders of the world and deconstructing what they'd have to do in this day and age to make them a reality now. So each person's completely different at different levels, but they all have a certain spark, a certain quality that I know, if amplified, that would be the thing that makes people gravitate towards them. And they don't have to be superstars, but once they've worked with me, they are.
Okay, so if my audience who they follow MacVlogs, if they start connecting with you, that would be a wonderful experience of mine, that I would be able to connect you to the people out there. What would you have to say on that?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 things I should do. First of all, go to speakonstage.com. That's speakonstage.com. And then you can see what it is that I do for if you're ready to then connect with me. But otherwise, go to LinkedIn and follow me on LinkedIn. I produce really interesting content daily, whether it's videos or it's audios or it's mindset or stories. I'm going to be taking my TV show live in the next couple of days, so you get to see that as well. I would say that's a beginning point, because anybody who comes across me and what I do doesn't know me. They just might like what it is that I do. So after a while of seeing me and connecting with what I do, then there's an opportunity to work with me. But I would say, like anything, you go shopping first before you invest. You don't just grab the first thing off a shelf and say, right, that's mine. So I would say, watch what I do, learn from it, and if you're ready to work with me, then sign up and then let's talk.
Well, it's going to be an honor for me if I can work with you, because I've seen your profile, I've seen your work, and I was so amazed. And I feel that I should be part of, in a journey, I would say, that which can help me improve and grow along with you, with your expertise and your advices.
Well, now's the perfect time to do it, because the world's coming out of lockdown, which means that a lot of the industries, TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, movies, have been put on hold with no new material being made. Now it's starting to be made, which means that there's a shelf life before it actually gets put out there. Once it's out there, you're going to have so much content. People are going to be sick of watching TV and radio and podcasts and everything else. Now is a sweet spot to get yourself up. So by the time this stuff comes out, you're already on people's radars, which is what's so great about MacVlogs. You've come out there, you've done your show, you've got an audience, you've built it up, you've created a relationship with people, and done an incredible job of sharing some great content, some wonderful guests, and helping people on their journey. And that's exactly what people should be doing. So well done to you for starting this and following through, because people only start it and go, well, it's not working. Yours is. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for the kind words. That really means to me a lot. And I hope with your experience and your expertise, I would be able to connect you to the Pakistani people out here so that they can learn from you and bring changes in them, how confident and a good human being they can be by being live out there. So I think you are an ideal personality which should and can help our Pakistani people with the confidence they need, which might be lacking in them. So it's going to be an honor to work with you and make a team with you for Pakistani market, where we can go to the next level and create better and awesome speakers from Pakistan for the international platforms.
Well, the world is flat. It used to be round, but it's flat now. We're all connected and there are no borders. Literally 7+ billion people are at the other end of a Zoom call. So creating your content, getting it out there, and having something that people want, something that people will find will change their lives is a bottom line. That's the secret sauce to making it out there. And yes, I mean, it's a great time to do it, and everybody who can should.
Well, before we wrap up our lovely session, I don't want to go, but again, it's the time which is precious. Basically, you have other important work to do as well, and we all have to work on the other aspects as well. But before you go, I need a very great and a nice shout out from Dave Crane for MacLogs, what he thinks about MacLogs. If he has seen my channel, I'm sure you might have seen it, you and your team. I hope you can subscribe, share, and like, and help me grow as a human being. So a great shout out from coming from Dave Crane would be an honor for me.
I thought I just gave you one just then. Okay, I'll do it again. I think that if you want to know how to get your media on point, and you want to have a very entertaining experience, and you're looking to take your business from one end right up to a much higher level, there are very few blogs that really do reach people in the same way. It's about frequency, it's about honesty, it's about transparency, and it's about having a host that really, really knows how to entertain you. So I recommend you should watch Mac Vlogs, every single episode. It's all there. Watch it now.
This was Dave Crane all the way from Dubai on MacLogs. So thank you for being part of MacLogs family from this moment onwards. And to everybody out there, if you're watching MacLogs and you haven't subscribed MacLogs yet, please, it's just a humble request. If you like MacLogs, press the bell icon and the subscribe button so that you can get the notifications of my great speakers who have been connecting and promoting and bringing them on my platform so that you can change along with the topic we choose for the discussion, basically, because that's the whole idea. Changing the people's mindsets, changing the people's body language, the attitude. It's only when you are confident, when you want to know and get connected with people like Dave Crane, and the other people who I bring on MacLogs. Thank you so much once again, Dave. I wish you all the best for your journey. Keep smiling. It looks great on you, and definitely MacVlogs will definitely be buzzing you again with different topic and different ideas so that we can bring change to other people's lives. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Cheers.
So everyone, take care. Bye-bye.